It is Talking in Stations. Oh, hold on. Let me hide the browser. Spoiler alert. All right, so it is Talking in Stations, our daily show on Tuesday. We have a full panel. We have two guests and our co-host, Rundle. So let's start with Rundle. How you doing? Oh, yeah. Well, it's good to be here. You do a good job though, being very consistent with these daily shows. I gotta say that you've done a good job. In fact, I want to say that you did a really good job on Sunday in particular. You moderated the Sunday show pretty well. I think that you show a lot of promise. All right, enough brown nosing, ass kissing, whatever you want to call it. Let's move on to the rest of the panel. We got two members of the CSM today to discuss some of the stuff because the CSM campaign is on. One of them is running, the other is not. Let's start with the one who is. Kenneth, let's tell us about it yourself. Oh, hold on. Now you can talk. And Rundle needs to... Okay, hold on. Let's start over. I unmuted myself and not everybody else. I'm sorry. See, I almost know what I'm doing. This is why I was complimenting you about being a host, because I know it's so hard. So, Rundle?
Yes.
You can say how much you appreciated all my stuff again and who you are, if you want.
Yeah. I am Rundle, and I appreciate the help tonight after flying solo yesterday, and you guys all missed my wonderful rebuttal to Ashrothi, where I returned the ass-kissery, but I won't repeat it here.
Yes, and thankfully moving on swiftly from that, we'll get back to Kenneth, person who I'm really interested in learning more about.
How's it going this evening? Kenneth Feld. I'm CSM 15. I'll be running in for CSM 16. And you did mention that season is on, but technically you can't even apply until April 26th. So it's still technically a week before it starts, although there's quite a few people that have already announced they're going to run, and they've already been working on campaigning.
Yes, the campaigns have certainly begun in earnest in several cases. And then, of course, we have a man who may not need introduction around these Twitch parts, but just in case, Torvald. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. What's up, guys? I'm Torvald Uruz, CSM 15, one and done for me. And it'd be interesting seeing this year play out and what's going to happen. All the people that are running that have announced it so far. Last year was crazy. We were talking before the show about how last year went and just everything going on in real life with real life elections and COVID and how the election process went. And so yeah, I can't wait to see how this one goes, but I will not be a part of it. I am taking a break.
So one and done, and we'll get more into the CSM hopefully a little bit later, but I do want to ask you, when you got on the CSM, like, let's be frank, a lot of people, you were an outside candidate. You did a really good job getting elected without having a major blocks or anything like that, just on the popularity of your own knowledge and what you've done for the community and your stream, which was incredible. So now that we're towards the end of it, do you feel rewarded for that? Are you burned out? Are you going to be one of those people that quits Eve now that you've been off the CSM? How's that playing out for you?
Man, I will tell you, I don't know how these guys do it back to back. It's insane. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I knew that going into this. It'd be a lot of work, but once you actually do it, it's like it hits you in the face, and you're dealing with all kinds of stuff. And we have the weekly meetings. We're talking in Slack all the time. We're talking in Discord. There's so much going on just from CCP's end and the community's end. I'm not going to quit Eve. I'm, a little break here. I've kind of been on the slow down a little bit, not going to quit or anything, but yeah, CSM, it's a commitment, man. It's an obligation. You're taking something you love and this crazy universe and this community, and you're making that an obligation where you can't just step away from that. You can't just take a break. You're CSM for a year. That's your job, your obligation. That's what you promise people you'd do. And, I feel very accomplished. It's been a hell of a year, man. I swear, this year's been thinking back. Once they announced these elections coming up, I'm like, holy shit, it's been a year already. Personally, I feel accomplished. I can walk away from this knowing that coming into the CSM, I had a list of things that I wanted to focus on and like goals that I wanted to achieve. And I know walking out of this, I'm like, I did the best I could for everything I wanted, and I can be happy with that.
So no bitter CSM vet then for you right now. So one and done is good. You're going out on a high note.
Hell yes, that's exactly it.
So can you give us any insight as to, when you look back over the year, you can point your finger at one change in the game and like, that was me? Is there one of those?
Man. So this isn't really game related, but one thing kind of, and there's a lot more people than just me that went into, that caused this to happen. But the partner program, that was one of those things where coming onto the CSM, what was really important to me was, the content creators, Twitch, YouTube, podcast, talk show, everything, all that was extremely important. And, I know that's not a game thing, but just getting that, and like I said, there's more people that put in work to make this happen, but I definitely contributed to it, and I've had a hand in it, and that's probably one of the big ones.
That's very cool. I'm not going to let you minimize that though, because right now I'm pretty sure we're all playing Eve, because Eve does have this amazing add-on game element of the metagame and the outside elements like no other game. So don't take that lightly. Good job. Kenneth, how about you? Can you point at one thing in the last year and say, that was me? And what would it be?
Two things. One was absolutely completely me. The other one was Risk and I, and maybe the Gobbins and a couple other guys just basically dogpiled Rise until he put target painters and a probe and drug bay on the monitor. I mean, we just dogpiled him until he yelled uncle and said, okay, yeah, we can do that. The part that's all me in the industry, the section about the fighter bombers for Citadel stand-up fighter bombers, they were originally built from Tech 2 ship fighters. They were stupid expensive, and it was I know why they did it now because I'm on the CSM back in 2016. I know why they did it. I can't tell you now, but I know why they did it, and even the person who did it now realizes that probably wasn't the, so they went back, and now it's Tech 1 that makes Tech 2 stand up. Tech 1 ship makes Tech 2 ship. And that was 100% me. The rest of the industry stuff, my ideas for it were completely scrapped. The plan, even though there's a few vocal people on Discord that think it was all me, it really wasn't. But that's fine. But basically what the CSM did there was keep CCP from sticking their hand on the hot stove, really. We shaped the edges so that, and now, we can't discuss how the plan was originally brought to us, but it was pretty rough around the edges, and the CSM as a whole really helped to smooth those edges, and I pretty much took the lead on most of that. But the initial plan was pretty rough, and the CSM as a whole went to bat and got the edges smoothed out significantly. Because at the end of the day, we don't drive what gets developed. We don't get a say in what's developed. We don't even necessarily get a say in what they do. All we can do is point out that, hey, if you do this, this things will happen, or the game's currently like this. We think changing it this much is probably not good. Maybe we should go for a middle ground or this or that. And then it makes them take pause and think. Some things they go, yep, that's great. We're doing it anyway. And some things they go, yeah, maybe you're right. And maybe we ought to look at something different. The Intel tool that's coming up, CCP Rattati was on a stream and admitted that they're on the 4th iteration of the Intel tool right now, because the first 3 we basically, for lack of a better term, shot it full of holes, and they were like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. We'll come back to you in a couple of weeks with a different one type thing. So,
That's
and what they came back with is pretty close to what the CSM as a whole kind of suggested initially.
yeah.
So that's just kind of little background. We just did our year in review
That's
too, so it's been pretty
cool. So it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are excellent
A
answers.
couple
And
things.
for those people not watching, yeah, just 1 second. Torvald has been nodding his head to everything Kenneth has been saying. So, I'm getting visual confirmation for those people not watching. But I think this is a great place to start because it shows, look, this kind of age-old CSM doesn't do anything. Like 3 direct examples where there was involvement, and Kenneth going on to even further say, yeah, we don't do the work directly, but we do have influence. And I know Ashrothi has just wound up with like 5 or 6 things. So go ahead, Ash. Sorry for taking over there.
That was exactly what I wanted to say. Was I've interviewed a lot of CSM, and I've had these kinds of conversations. I've asked these exact questions over and over and over again, and I've gotten similar answers before. But being able to see Torvald, now that we live in the future of everyone having webcams, I can watch Torvald respond live to Kenneth describing it. Makes me go, oh man, really hit something there. So that was no NDA required.
I've got a lot I could, going, like, first off, Kenneth here, dude, he's put in a lot of time, and anytime something came out, Kenneth, man, he was crunching numbers. Like, he needs to be on the CSM again, because the industry stuff, I'll tell you, dude, out of the 10 of us, we'd get these numbers and this information, and Kenneth, like, there's one day he sat down and we all did our own little private, CSM meeting, not CCP included, just so Kenneth could kind of go over the numbers and explain to, all of us, there's a wide variety of experience and knowledge there. And dude, having an industry guy on CSM, really important. And the amount of, me, I'm not so smart with the blueprints and whatnot, but this guy's crunching numbers and doing stuff. It was freaking, I'm like, I go cross-eyed look at some of this stuff, but these guys figured it out. And yeah, so that kind of, I'll say, I see all these comments where it's like, man, CSM is useless, but those people are not really smart, because now that I've seen this stuff firsthand, I've seen these interactions, and there's literally things that happen in the game that we have talked about, and we said, hey, please, for the love of God, don't do that, or do it this way. And it, that gets taken. Now, granted, not always, it doesn't always happen that way. There's some times where we're just kind of like something surprises us or whatnot. That happens, because CSP is a company and a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. Yeah, it's just, this year was nuts, man, with the whole industry rework and the scarcity and whatnot. And, we did our best.
More opportunity for influence than any other game that I've ever been able to name, witness, or hear about. So,
yeah. And one thing you definitely learn on CSM is that, even though there's 10 of us, CCP is in the community. They know people. They're, they're not just, sitting behind a desk in a suit, no clue what's going on. Like they're talking to people outside of us, and obviously they're not talking about things they're not supposed to. But they're getting feedback from the community outside the CSM as well, so it's not just, oh, it's the CSM or nothing. They're out there like, man, maybe you don't see this in other games. I don't, at least, where the developers are that, involved with the community to where you can just chat with them,
To that point, I actually was just asked in chat whether or not I was running for CSM, and I am not. I've ran before, but while I was running, I was asked a very interesting question, which is that since I do like to speculate and I do like to talk about like the industry things and about things that I simply would not be able to talk about anymore if I was under NDA, I couldn't even speculate about it. And so I would actually lose some of my value in that sense. And as far as being able to speak to CCP, they are very open. If I need to talk to them, I know how to reach out to them. And sometimes they even will hit me up, as I know they hit up a lot of people when they are trying to figure out what to do next when it comes to a specific place or feature. So it isn't just the CSM, but the CSM are incredibly important. The one last thing I did want to say, just for administrative purpose, before I hand it back to you guys to pitch it around, is you guys need to do a little bit of manual leveling. So Kenneth, if you could talk a little bit louder than you were, and if Torvald, you could not do your streamer leaning into the mic thing, then I think that everyone's going to be a lot happier with me. I appreciate it.
Hopefully that's better. Oh, I did it again.
No,
Hopefully
that's perfectly
better.
great. That's great. That's great. So, but with all that in mind, here, let me reopen the question, or the topic back up with the question. What should our viewers be thinking about when it comes to finding a quality candidate? What kind of things makes somebody a good CSM member? Not just a good platform that's interested in promoting the features that you're interested in, but like, what makes a good CSM member?
One that has a lot of free time, because it's going to be gone. CSM is kind of like most anything else. You get out of it what you put in it, right? There's I think CSM 15 was pretty active, but I know over the years there's some that have been less active. And if you vote for a candidate and the candidate goes MIA 2 months after he starts or she starts, then that doesn't do anyone any good. So one, I would say you need to pick someone who you feel is going to be there and devote some time to it, because you're obviously going to be voting for someone that has the same interests for you in mind, right? So if you have two candidates and one of them you're like, yeah, sometimes he goes MIA for a month at a time, and although he loves the game, and then you have another candidate and they don't go AFK for months at a time, and they like the same things that you do, then that's kind of the tiebreaker, I guess, the way I would look at it. But you definitely want someone who's going to be nerd active, and because they throw stuff at you sometimes, and you only have a couple days to react, and if you don't throw up the flag and say, hey, they're shoving that stuff to production, and next thing you know, it's a feature, and you lost your chance to go, hey, I wouldn't touch that stove.
Yeah, the communication and activity part is huge. I mean, you can have all the knowledge and experience about EVE Online in the world, but if you don't have the ability to communicate with, people, everyday EVE players and, members of the community, then that's what this job is. It's literally all communication. So you got to make sure, like, you got to think, if they're at a table and they're listening to something from CCP, are they going to be able to accurately represent me and communicate, what I want them to communicate, or what I believe, they have the mindset of. Obviously, experience and knowledge is something, then different areas of the game. I mean, obviously the whole nullsec representation is pretty strong. So when you're thinking about, if you're not in one of those null, or even if you are in one of those null blocks, just think about what's good for the overall health of the game, because that's really important. That when you're voting someone in the CSM, you got to make sure that person is there for the entire game. You don't, they're not going there for their group. They're not going there for their corp alliance or their specific. They got to be thinking of what's good for the entirety of EVE. And to me, that's really important. Like, you got to look at all the, me, I went on there. I came on the CSM as a, didn't really fall into a category, but as a CSM member, I'm, you got to think about different areas of the game and how it affects them, and is it good or is it bad? And then obviously there's different kind of, everyone has their different opinions and whatnot. But yeah, when you're voting someone, you just got to think, do they care about what's best for the game, or are they just looking at for their own personal interests? To me, that's important.
And one thing about CSM 15, when I got elected, I kind of knew through the grapevine that industry was coming up, but I didn't know what it was about. And Torvald and Phantomite are more low sec faction warfare and that kind of stuff. And it just so happened that I got elected and it was time to do industry, and it wasn't time to do faction warfare or low sec. That's nothing against Torvald or Phantomite. They both pushed for it. They gave an excellent presentation, and you never know. When it's time to do low sec and faction warfare revamp, CCP may go back to that presentation and say, hey, these guys had some really cool ideas. We're going to implement them now. And
yeah, it may yet bear fruit for sure.
Right. It was what Dunk's been out 6 months and got a T2 salvager drone. So, it's just because you're on the CSM and you're doing work doesn't mean that your work can't bear fruit. It just may not bear fruit during your term. And I think that would be just as satisfying to Torvald if he's one and done, but a year from now, some of the things that he presented actually get put in the game.
Well, regardless, the overall feeling about faction warfare, the amount of attention his presentation brought to it, if you wanted to rate Torvald as a candidate or as a CSM member for faction warfare, I'd say that he's done quite a good job. You can just look at how much interest there is in faction warfare, having it be revitalized. A year ago, people would have said, just cut it. Why would CCP care about faction warfare at all? If anything, at least we have learned that it is valuable and that a fix is necessary. It's just also an acknowledgement that that is also a lot of work. So it's worth noting. But again, too much ass kissing. So let's say, like, a lot of people, and I guess we can just talk about this for the first half, and then we'll have patch notes and other stuff for the second half. That'll work out. You mentioned null blocks. Too often it is said that, you know, voting in CSM doesn't really matter, or voting as a high secker doesn't really matter because all of the null blocks are just going to get all of the seats, and it's all rigged, and who cares because it doesn't really matter anyways. What do you say to those people who have joined the game recently, aren't part of a null block, and may be hearing those things in the next coming weeks?
I mean, everybody, I know this is kind of an overused phrase, but every vote counts, right? And there's what, 3-4 of us on CSM right now who aren't part of a null block, and that's because people voted outside, and there's obviously other factors in the play. But you know, if you want to be represented, if you want to have a voice, and you know, even if it's not your specific play style, you know, you just got to look at the candidates and think, who do I want to represent me? Who do I think is going to make the good choices? You know, is going to accurately portray how I feel to CCP about certain changes and whatnot. Yeah, everyone should vote. Everyone should get involved with it. You know, just pay attention, pick a couple candidates, you know. Yeah, there's definitely more than just nullsec out there. People always say, you know, CSM is like a nullsec thing. Well, it's not, because there's a couple of us who aren't on nullsec on the CSM. And, you know, we've been able to give our feedback, and we're here having this opportunity because people went out and they did that. They did those votes, you know, whether they lived in a null block or not, you know, people voted for us, and now we're here. And I feel like we, you know, the Phantomite, Mike, and myself, I think that's, yeah, we're the only 3 non-null set guys, and we've all 3 had voices and everything. And, you know, that's really important.
A lot of people last year were told those same things. And, you know, there were a lot of good candidates last year. Some of them didn't get elected. You know, there are some people that voted for Dutch Gunner, and then their candidate didn't get elected. That, you know, that happens. But the point of the matter is that a lot of people were told that voting doesn't matter, or that CSM doesn't matter, or null blocks have it locked up, and voted for Torvald anyways. So that's just evidence enough. And Torvald, as you said, isn't running. So that means there's at least one, like, wild card slot that's completely open for grabs. And there's a lot of really interesting candidates right now. So I'm very excited about this campaign.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think, hopefully we never see an all nullsec, you know, group, even though, like, all the guys in nullsec, they still, you know, every one of them, they've had input on things outside of nullsec, you know, that affect the entire game. And, you know, for the most part, I can confidently sit here and say that all 10 members of the CSM are very, you know, they care about Eve and they care about the community. They're not, you know, you don't have Villy out there fighting for Test or Gobbins fighting for Goons. Everyone, they're generally like,
Gobbins,
you know,
fight for Goons.
Did I get that backwards?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Gobbins is for it. Sorry.
That's how much they don't fight for their own teams, is that he doesn't even know what teams they're on.
Yeah, man. I can personally attest to this, that these guys aren't, you know, I don't see situations where certain people are they're trying to make plays for their group. When a situation comes up, they've generally got the overall health of the game in mind. It's not like, you know, it's not like we sit in a meeting and CCP's like, okay, high sec, and then all the null sec guys just dip out and, you know, don't even pay attention. They're there, they're providing meaningful, you know, feedback, and, you know, whether they have the experience or not, they're doing their job, and they're doing a pretty damn good job of it. So, you know, I'm not saying all null sec people are bad, you know, all nullsec CSM is bad, but, you know, it's nice to have diversity on there, and it's good to have different points of view, because there's definitely been situations where, you know, we'll be talking about we'll be talking about a scenario in Eve, and, you know, the guys who aren't so familiar with low sec will, you know, they'll say something, and that's where people like Phantomite and myself come in, and we're like, no, we've lived here, we've had this happen. So, you know, it's good to have a well-rounded CSM. But yeah, it's definitely not one of the situations where null set guys are there for themselves and nobody else, because they are there for the entirety of the game.
It's a really great point, and I appreciate you bringing it up. You know, just because a candidate gets elected by being a nullsec, historically, you know, they are also just chosen by their communities because they're very knowledgeable about the game and care about it deeply and have that time thing that you were mentioning. And so if they've proven it to their community, then they've risen up to be that position for the broader community, which is really how another way of looking at those kinds of candidates. And it's also a really good point that this isn't necessarily about, like, too often it's framed as like nullsec candidates are bad, but no, it is about diverse representation. So this is about understanding that if everybody votes, then that helps us get the best representation that we can. And it is a really solid voting system. They don't use like a first past the post. They use a ranked voting system. So that way there's a very, very high chance that someone that you put on your list, assuming that you put like 4 or 5, one of them will, at least your vote will count towards helping them get across the finish line, which I think is really important. So if, you know, half or 70% of the CSM ends up being null blocks, I think that might be proper, because that represents the amount of organization and people and coordination, and more importantly, concerns and meticulous concerns that are required for CCP to address. But at the same time, it's really important for us non-null block people to rally behind our non-null block candidates, because it's a huge field and only a few slots for people that to represent, you know, outside of that.
Yeah, watching the ranked voting last year, that was rough.
And just the ranked voting, when I went over the hump and my leftover votes went, Mike Azariah picked up quite a chunk from me. As you know, when I went over the hump, my extra votes, quite a bit went to him. So, and I would imagine the majority of my votes came from null blocks. So Mike Azariah was on some null block tickets, because at the end of the day, when they drop you off and you start this game, you start in high sec. They don't drop you off in null sec. Mike does a lot of good in helping to cultivate new players. And if they stay in the game long enough, then maybe they migrate to low sec or migrate to null sec. But at the end of the day, we need new players coming in the game. We need them cultivated. And he is a very good person to do that. And that's why he got elected.
It is,
again, mind you, he wasn't on it 14, but he has been on it previously.
right. He actually took a break because he got diagnosed and had to battle with cancer. And then once he got healthy enough,
sure
he came back.
Public knowledge.
No, it was. Oh yeah, it was a thing. In fact, I had a whole thing because Project Discovery at that same time was the biology one. So like every day I did extra ones because, you know, for him. But either way, I digress. Yeah, it is very hard to think anything poorly about Mike Azariah, and it doesn't surprise me at all that he has broad support. And I'm again just another of the many candidates this year that I am very interested in watching their campaign. Hey, Jurius, there's another one.
And he's from Canada, so extra bonus there. Western Canada, extra bonus there. So.
Okay. Do we have anything else before we want to? Do either of you have anything else to discuss about the campaign or CSM before we move on to patch notes and other such things?
I just wanted, one of the comments in Twitch chat was talking about the scarcity thing. And the scarcity thing was the one thing that CCP told us about on like a Tuesday, and it went live on Wednesday type thing. And CCP Rattati went on the stream and basically said, we didn't care what the CCP or the CSM thought. We were going to do it. This is what has to be done in their mind to fix the game. And there you go. It happened. Our input was not required nor desired.
And in fact, it would have been detrimental, honestly.
It could have been. But by not telling us about it, they also gave us plausible deniability.
Exactly.
And that's what,
yeah.
So whoever was asking about that, we absolutely had no idea it was going to happen. And basically, they told us about it a day in advance and said, hey, here's what's going to happen tomorrow. Have a nice night. And that was it.
I'm actually surprised that they gave you that much of a heads up. I remember we talked about it at the time, and yeah, it was very clear that the CSM got nothing about that. And a lot of these big changes, especially these economic changes that have been happening, it makes no sense from CCP's perspective to talk to the CSM about it, because they know how controversial and like unliked it will be. So what's the point? All they could do is potentially expose to the player base or part of the player base, and potentially have that get leaked, or at least, or accusations of leaks, or whatever. No. Like, they have to remember that they are also a game company. So the way they and the CSM are still players of the game, so that controls their relationship too. But that usually is managed by CCP.
One last question for Torvald, real quick.
Yeah, I think Kenneth was actually responding to that.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I could not hear you, Kenneth. I'm sorry.
No, I was just a little funny. Torvald was talking about going over the industry patch again. After the patch went live, now there's quite a few CCP people that play the game, and they may not all be developers. It may be a game master or someone, art department, who would have no idea that this industry stuff is even changing, right? They're in a different section. And on our private Slack, I would actually get DMs from CCPers who are playing and doing industry and asking me to explain the changes to them as well, because they got caught off guard just like all the players, because they don't have access to that stuff. So they didn't even know industry was changing. And they woke up one morning or, halfway through work, and hey, the patch notes came out, or the dev blog came out, and they're like, hey, what's going on? And so they're messaging me trying to figure out what's going on.
That's funny. Well, there are about 300 and something people, right, as a company, right? So they can't all know everything at every moment, right? So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Plus, some artist is just an artist, right? They don't necessarily, like, some of the grunt work is going to be done by people who aren't necessarily interested in the video game at its like highest level. They're just an artist that likes to draw spaceships and get paid for it.
I would say just an artist. I can't do it. I can't do it. So an artist and the ability to do that is fantastic. They have amazing skills. But yeah,
in the framework of that. But yeah, we'll go on with your question.
Yeah. So Torvald, all right. So when it's done, it's going to wind up. What are the first things? Where are you going to go on to? What are the first things you're going to want to do? Where you're just going to be able to go back and play Eve to relax?
Where's your Disneyland?
Yeah. Honestly, man, just gonna I'm starting up a whole industry mining thing. I'm gonna play Eve real chill. I'm actually in the process of setting up some mining stuff and getting ships in place, because man, I just want to sit here and watch rocks disappear and not have it's gonna be so relaxing. I'm actually gonna start up mining stuff. That's a true story. Yeah, it'll be nice just to kind of be able to relax and step away. And like I said, I'm not going to quit Eve, but I'm going to be playing very, slowly from here.
Cool. Take a chill all around.
Have you noticed how many people in the Marvel MCU retire to a farm? I feel like this is Torvald's it is finished moment. He's going to go watch the sunset a few days.
Yeah, hopefully not have a team come and cut my head off.
Excellent.
All right. Well, I think
appreciate the open. Yeah.
Oh,
I was just saying probably the same thing you're going to say. Thank you very much for the open and honest answers and the open dialogue, and appreciate it from my side.
All right. So let's go ahead and fill out the second half with the news of the day. So let's begin by popping up my browser window. Let's see if this works. Yay! Patch notes. So today's patch notes is relatively simple. This is the calm but before the storm, right? This is the eye of the storm. Last week was a huge patch that damaged everything and made everything go crazy. Next week, we might get a huge patch that's going to make everything else go crazy. But right now, nothing really happened. This was all just bug fixes today. But let's talk about it, because I'm sure that there's going to be some comments about it. First of all, added pirate asteroid spawns to Stargates in Null 6 systems, which have been removed following the removal of asteroid belts on Tuesday, 13th of April. this feels. Is this simply a matter of trying to restore some of the ore, or is this a matter of trying to fix the officer spawn bug? I wonder.
I think when they say the spawns, these are the pirates that are going to spawn where they would have normally spawned at the asteroids, but they're now spawning at stargates as an attempt to try to kind of backfill the whoops, we took the spawns away. That's totally what it is. It reads kind of a little weird. It makes it sound like asteroids are going to spawn on the stargates. No, I really think they're saying the pirates that normally would have spawned at the asteroids now spawn at stargates. I read somewhere 1 to 4 sort of thing. Still kind of rare-ish. It's better than nothing is the way I would look at it. It's a quick attempt to try and say, whoops, and here, let us try to fix that in the short term. And I'm sure in the background, they're like, we'll put this in the longer term solution center and figure out something more endearing long term.
CCP did acknowledge the fact that I don't remember if they fully acknowledged whether or not they had. CCP Swift posted something today, or within the last couple of days about it, about how they didn't really take into consideration the secondary effects of like officer response and stuff. So they are looking for a larger solution, but I think you are 100% correct. This is kind of a stopgap measure to just make sure that those rats still exist, so that way we can still engage with them in order to trigger all of those things that they lead to. Cool. So then localize the new content into language stuff. Cool. If you're listening to me, you probably don't need to worry about any of those. But then comes the biggest fix of the quadrant. I want to know what CSM member made this happen. No, the gate audio bug has been fixed. Ironically, I think somebody had mentioned in the forums that this ended up being caused by some memory leak or something. So it was actually a whole separate issue that was just manifesting in the form of this gate audio bug, which is part of the problem with fixing bugs. But thankfully, what this means is the investigation is over, and both the underlying issue and the audio bug that it was created, or that was manifested by it, has been fixed. And Lordy help me, thank you for that. And if you notice, also the jump gate VFX, which if you note, it used to be for a little while, or for a long time, you could get like a shadow of the Stargate in the middle of your screen. And so it's very possible that was part of what the memory leak was. It wasn't releasing those correctly, which is what was causing it to make the jump gate blur. So we got both the slight visual error and the much larger audio error fixed. Celebration?
Someone in chat already said it, but I'll be the guy to say it. Eve has sound.
Okay, look. Yeah, not only does Eve have sound, you know what's funny about this? So a long time I used to say that, like, oh, it was made because the Concord did it to make us not be crazy. Because that was what I was taught. But I actually read, if you read the Jovian Wetgrave, which was also read by the Eve Reader podcast, you learn that actually the reason why is because they added artificial sound into the pod, the Jovians did, to engage with all of the senses to allow the brain occupying the captain's sheet, the interface, to be able to process all of the different systems. Or to put in game mechanics term, whether or not you like it or not, there's all kinds of little audio indicators that if you start to key into them and understand what they mean, tell you a lot about what's happening in the state of your ship that you may not be catching on to otherwise. So yeah, Eve has sound. Rant off.
All right, cool. So that's something I'm going to do with my my new mining. I'm going to turn sound on and enjoy that then.
Listen to the whir of the lasers, my friend. It will calm you and soothe you.
I also really like inactive client muting, so that way when I don't have the client as my primary thing, it turns off all the music, all of the atmospheric sounds, the sound of the sun roaring or anything like that. But what it does is it makes it so if there's like a gate flash or any sort of UI interface that happens, it'll still come across my ears. So just in case I've left myself drifting, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I have ADHD, then my otherwise silent client will start making meaningful noises. So that's super handy too.
All right, yep, there's gonna be a goal of mine. Turn the sound on Eve and enjoy that for a little bit.
Yeah, there is actually a specifically for a miner, there is a special sound effect that goes off when your ore hole is full. So you'll be good to go.
All right, good to know.
All right. Next thing is fix an issue that would cause the electroneural signaler to not drop correctly. So this was something that I think Nth Dimensional, who came on the show yesterday, you were
Yes. Yes.
He was pointing out this as part of all of his discoveries, but apparently this they put it back in, or wherever it was supposed to be, it now is.
This might have been the null sec one that he was saying, cannot find it. It is nowhere to be found. So Nth Dimensional is listening today, so he just said, yes, this is what it is. So great.
Awesome. Great. And
excellent.
I know Nth earlier today was doing some research in lowsec. I don't know if he discovered anything. And then I saw some things to try out myself, but I haven't gotten my fleet together yet. So
maybe he could pop on the Discord and give us a little update on what he found out, and we can use that in tomorrow's show, or if he wants to type it out here in the stream, we can kind of cover it back, because even though it's Patch Tuesday, this is a very special Tuesday. It is also Economic Report Tuesday. Maybe some of you might even have had Taco Tuesday, which would have been extra special, but let's talk about the Economic Report if we're done with the patches.
I will say that Nth Dimensional just verified that means that it is now dropping in or the sites are or the items are dropping in low sec, not just high sec. So, but let's move on to the MER. Boom. So today is the oh, hold on, that was the wrong one. Darn it. Halfway there to being professional. Almost there. Okay, MER. So I'm not a big MER analysis guy, but the MER is a monthly economic report that CCP puts out that a lot of people in EVE like to comb through for everything from economic analysis to intelligence gathering. So on that note, I'm just going to open it up. MER, any thoughts?
So just for those who maybe don't know what it is, even though it's released in March, it gathers the information from February. So what we're really looking at is, in this case, it's March's, and we're in April. So you're 1 month behind always on the economic report. So let me put it that way. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. I believe it is April.
It's released in April, but it's March's data, and it's labeled as
That's right. It's March's data. Right. So it's always delayed by a month.
As it says here, the economic report for the month of February is now available.
Yeah, that's what confused me, because it said February, and I was reading the text that CCP put on the thing. It's actually March's.
Oh, that's the error. Okay, that's fun.
That's why I was confused, because I can read, but apparently I can't read and talk and compute at the same time. So, anyways, this is March's report, released in April. I hope this is March's data.
The spreadsheets say March.
Yeah, I've only looked over a small part of it, but I'm pretty sure there's some parts that are
does look like it.
different than February.
Yeah, Delve took a huge jump in 5 billion trillion gazillion-isk.
5.5 trillion lost.
Yeah, 5.5 trillion. It was a lot.
That's a lot.
Just a little. Yeah, exactly. And I found another little bug on the CCP page that if you actually try to click on the destroyed value by region bar graph, they actually are linking it to the previous destruction by region regional map thingy. It doesn't work. You have to go actually open the zip file to find it and look at it, because I like bar graphs. So,
well, it's impressive either way. Even if you don't see it in full size, you can definitely see that this blue bar up here, whatever. The blue bar on the far left side is basically a fair chunk of the other ones combined. So
normally I believe like the Forge, right, where Jita is, usually is and the Citadel, those two regions are usually the big ones, kind of way up front, unless there's a war. But this is, those two are about just 2.2 and change, which means even the Forge and the Citadel together do not equal what occurred in Delve in March alone.
Right, because that's the next two ones, which are the most common systems for ganking, and therefore higher value things just go boom there all the time. So normally those would be much higher, but this war has dwarfed all of that.
One of my, I'm sorry.
No, go.
Go ahead.
One of my favorite things to look at, Ash, if you scroll all the way down to the second to the last graph, it's actually a hot chart or something.
I do love
heat,
these map ones. So
yeah, the heat map at the very end.
peak concurrent players.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
That will tell a gigantic story about what's going on right now. You basically have, normally this heat map is fairly well balanced, prior to the war. But right now you basically have the entire game jammed into that one little section in the galactic Southwest, basically kicking each other in the nuts every day. I'm sorry, can we say nuts on this show?
Oh yeah, whatever. I'm pretty sure that's safe. No, and that's important. And to stress this even further, this is the peak concurrent players. So that means basically local, like who has the highest local number. This isn't throughout the day. This is where the fleets are, where the things are happening, where people are all coming together at one time. So that's why you see a lot of like kind of boiling nothing, because that's a lot of the place that's the flyover states, as it were. And then some pieces of interest, like that giant spike in the Citadel, is how many people happen to be in Jeddah at any given time, for example.
That'd be the Forge.
Or I mean, yeah, the Forge. Well, then what the heck is the giant? Oh no, yeah, it's the Forge and the Citadel. So whatever, it's right between the two. But if you can see that the spikes in Delve, which means the fleets in Delve, not only does the destruction overshadow the Citadel and Forge, but just the sheer number of people stuffed into any individual system is also dwarfing the most populous areas of Eve under normal conditions, which is incredible.
Yeah, and if you scroll to the next map, interesting little another little part of the story comes up where these are Stargate jumps, where Delve has almost none, which means the mode of combat is being bridged or using jump gates if available. And there's one little spike, two little spikes kind of in the middle. If you're able to see that, that's probably the 1DQ gate, and probably the other side of the gate out of T5Z or something like that to DW.
You know what I love? Oh, sorry.
And I was going to say, can you see what else in the middle of the map?
I think that's exactly what I was about to talk about. Yeah. You can totally see the Silk Road here. You can see
absolutely
the path from the Citadel all the way down to Amar, and the route that people are having to take. And then there's a lot of activity all throughout Galente space, but there's this really clean path down and into.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Amar.
Yeah,
that is
we
really
saw
cool.
the same thing. Yeah. Now, what is it? Is this middle blob in the middle? What is that? Poshan?
It says Poshvin in the middle.
What do we think that is?
That's actually a really good point, and I complained about this on Twitter, and I don't think I got a good response about it. Maybe I'll have to look. But it says Poshvin here, but that's only because this basically the way that the API, the way it reads it is it reads in all of the entries within the region, and then it puts the name in the middle of the region. And since all of the systems of Poshvin are scattered throughout New Eden, or this Empire area, it's just like you'll see the same thing in the map. It'll just say Poshvin right there in the middle of the system. But if you look at Poshvin, it'll be this big sprawling spider web all throughout the Empire. But what frustrates me, actually, that's a really good point. If you look on all of these other entries, you don't see Poshvin listed. We've been talking about whether or not Poshvin's alive or dead or whatever, and it is fair that Poshvin is sort of a wormhole space, and they're also not reporting wormholes. But
correct. That's why.
Okay, that's fair. But it is worth noting that Poshvin is not listed on here, is all I'm saying. And there is good reason for why, as you pointed out. Thank you. But it does make talking about Poshvin even more complicated.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of jumps then in the Essence, Singlay Zone, Verge Vendor area as well, a bunch of gate activations. And so there's, I guess, some sort of alternate motion in those areas. I don't know if that's, I would just be curious if anyone knows what those might be that's in that area, why they would have so many maybe that's alternate transportation of goods towards that direction, I guess.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, Sync Liaison is Dodixie. So a lot of basically everything between Citadel and Sync Liaison is, hold on a second, is that right there is basically the Dodixie JITA route. But everything past that is into Verge Vendor Solitude. That's actually going into Essence Verge Vendor. That's LOSEC. That's Galente Caldari Faction Warfare. So
is that where Snuff and RC and all those guys are fighting right now?
No, they're actually fighting down on the other war zone.
Mimitar corner there.
Yep. Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, it looks like it's one big cluster, but what you're seeing is the path between the two and mixed in with the really tightly compacted LOSEC right next to that.
Yep, that makes sense then. Excellent.
So Dixie and Amar are both making a small comeback in relevance.
You're absolutely correct. And if you find something that you want stocked in Dodixie and can't find out about it, please let me know and I will personally ensure it is. Dodixie is open for business.
There you go. But back to that other heat map, though, and swinging full circle back to CSM. If you look at that heat map for the concurrent players, that pretty much mirrors the voting. Right?
The peak concurrent players?
Right. That's the people who vote, right? And if you look at that, and you look at the voting, 70% of the members are members of null blocks, and 30% aren't. You know, that tells you the story right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. The God honest truth is that null blocks will get their fair chunk of people because A, they have the population, and B, they have the organization to both justify and need good representation. And also with null blocks being so in contest with each other, it is actually important for there to be enough room for, you know, any given null block to have their own candidate, because you don't want your enemy to be the only null block candidate, you know, like that would suck. In fact, that actually is a problem that we run into when we try to find like a faction warfare candidate or even a wormhole candidate. You know, if it's all down to one, it's really hard to convince that person's in-game enemies to be behind them. So it's important to hear all of the voices at the table when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it's also important for there to be enough seats for there to be other candidates, which thankfully last year, in spite of I was concerned that shrinking the number of seats would mean that we wouldn't see as many candidates, but you know, Mike Azariah, Torvald, and others got on, and by the logic that people had presented about, you know, null block candidates and their ability to control the vote, they wouldn't have. So I think that this year, at the very minimum, will be the same, and the null block will get some, and the non-null block candidates that are able to garner enough interest to rise from the whatever 30 or 40 or so that end up starting with to the top two are going to make it. You know, the biggest thing is making sure to not only secure enough general support, but enough first votes, because you can actually get eliminated early, and then you would have gotten votes later, but even though now you're eliminated, so you don't even get eligible for them. So, you know, get enough first. Who you vote for first is really, really important to keeping them alive in the system long enough, and then from there, just believe in the system.
Definitely need a wormhole guy on CSM next year.
Yeah, Brisk did a pretty good job this year, but it's rough. Just the mechanics there are so different. Trying to kind of foreshadow what's going to happen. You know, when they want to make a change, foreshadowing how that's going to affect them is and the whole mass thing. I mean, I can crunch the numbers on mass when they wanted to change the mass of the wormholes or something changed recently, and I tried to do the math on that, and that hurt my head.
Yeah, the wormholes, that kind of space where unless you actually live in wormholes, like, you don't truly know. So, and that's one thing that, I mean, me personally, I noticed on CSN this year, I'm like, man, this sucks. Cause I mean, anything that happens that affects wormholers, like something will happen, and, you know, we don't have that knowledge or experience in wormholes. Something as simple as like a change to a ship or some mechanic over here that we're all not thinking of because we're not wormhole guys. That's the kind of thing that we need on the CSM. That way they can be like, hey, we're a thing. We're an entire population of people. And yeah, we definitely didn't have that this year. And I see Jurius talking about Laura Secco and Exuki. Like it's so important for people to understand,
Right.
like split.
Okay, they didn't
Yeah.
have the numbers because the same thing happened to them that happened to me. It came down to it, and Blazing Bunny and I, the NC dot candidate, were kind of neck and neck. And I was just a little bit ahead of him when he went out. When he went out and I picked up the majority of his votes, I shot way up to the top quick. Exuki,
Yep.
I believe, was the last candidate to go out and got you and Phantomite in, correct? Or was it Steady Yo?
I can't remember.
He was close to the end. So one of them had already gone out, and he had the one candidate had picked up as many votes from the other one as possible, or as many as voted for him. So they just need more people in general.
And they need to not, people need to not split votes. Like you gotta vote for your play style, and even if you want one guy to win and not the other guy, like they basically eliminated themselves in a way. At least from what I remember, it seems like they eliminated themselves because people voted for one and not the other. But you have 10 slots on that sheet, and there's a hell of a lot more than 10 people going for it. So it's important to fill that up with people that, I know you're asking people to do the research and look into all the different candidates. That's a hard task because, there's a lot of reading there. And, but yeah, it's important to just have an open mindset going into it and looking at all the different options and filling up that sheet. Then more than, don't just throw one person on there,
Well, and me and being industry, I got quite a bit of high sec voting, whereas a wormhole player isn't going to end up third, fourth, or fifth on someone's ticket, really. It's the two big wormhole groups. You're going to be 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 type thing. And some high sec guy or null block really isn't going to add them to their ticket. So if they don't have enough votes amongst themselves, I think it's going to be really hard for one of them to get on a ticket. Maybe low sec can include them in, but low sec, I mean, you and Phantomite barely made it as well. So it's, again, you start splitting that up, muddy in the waters. Another null blocker could slide in there. So it's a delicate balance for sure.
Yep. I cannot wait to see this whole process, this whole campaign going. I want nothing to do with it. I'm just going to sit back from afar and watch from a distance and just, be glad I'm not a part of it. But yeah, I can't wait to see it all go down.
Yeah, we actually had a different episode where we talked about the mechanics of how this whole election process is going to happen, plus a dev blog and whatnot. And, I'm sure that there will be more discussion about it in the weeks and months to come. Even the nomination or the official registration phase doesn't even begin until next week. So there's still a bit of time to get to know all of these different candidates. And I think that the big thing I'm taking out of this, from what you guys are saying, is that regardless of what anybody wants to tell you, the voting really does matter. That, regardless of whether or not you think it's just fun that we have space politicians in our internet spaceship game, or if you think that like we might be able to put in somebody who's able to help steer our collective hobby in a slightly better way, regardless of how it is, the system works best when everybody votes. So get out there, vote for your candidates, vote for as many candidates that manage to get you interested in them. And don't believe people when they say that the CSM isn't cool, because the CSM is as cool or as not cool as we make it with our votes and candidates.
Yep. Don't listen to those damn Redditors, man.
I love Reddit.
Good, didn't he?
I love Reddit, but I like to say, I like to think that Reddit are people that post on Reddit are posting on Reddit because they can't post on the forums. Just think about that. No.
True.
No. So just to wrap things up a little bit, moving on from
the MER,
I guess the MER and CSM Part 2. Just to wrap things up for the day, we do have new pirate hex skins, right? And they have them all listed in price. And I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see them before we go.
I want to talk about one other thing that the CSM had absolutely nothing to do with, but I freaking love it, is the 12-month Omega using PLEX, and you get 1 month for free. I am
Yes.
someone who logs in. I keep all my Plex on one pilot. So I log in that pilot once a month and by gift, type in a name, hit enter, go to that next screen, get stuck there while the little spinny wheel goes. Then you have to X out of that, go back down, click on the Omega, buy gift, type in a name, and I do that 25 to 40 times a month, depending on how many counts I'm plexing.
I'm already exhausted.
Yes, that will give you carpal tunnel right there. And you ain't even started doing industry jobs yet. But now I can just go in once a year and click and type in a name and give them Plex for the year. That will save my fingers. And CSM had absolutely nothing to do with that. But I think that's one of the best quality of life things that the marketing department has added to the game in a while.
Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought my stream actually died again, like right at this same like hour mark again, and I was about to lose my gosh darn mind. But I think it just had a hitch.
Little hitch, yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good point. I'm surprised you didn't point that as like your big thing that you did this year.
No, I've got no reason to lie about it.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I would have figured that you pushed for it.
No, I didn't even know that I could, or I would have. I mean, marketing isn't one of those things. Now, I tell you this, when stuff comes out and Reddit's, oh my God, it's a cash grab, and people are putting on the tin foil like no tomorrow. Reynolds Wrap is running, the shelves are empty of tin foil, and you're just like, oh my God, you're crazy, right? But a lot of that stuff, some things we hear about, some things we don't. And then they always ask us, hey, is there anything we can do that you guys know of that we can make money from? And we've told them the same thing every time. Alliance skins on ship and Alliance skins on Citadels, Corp skins on ship, Corp skins on Citadels. Take my money. Here you go. Here's my credit card. I'll give it to you now, and you can just keep it on file when you ship it, right? And for whatever reason, that hasn't happened yet. However, that's the only thing that I could take credit for as far as for, cash grab type thing. But for the most part, the CSM doesn't get terribly involved in that. Every now and then they'll say like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. This is the price. Expert Systems, they kind of give us a heads up on that. Hey, this is the kind of the price we're thinking about and stuff. And that kind of thing. But that's pretty minor. The marketing department is pretty much completely separate from anything the CSM does.
Yep. So people can't get mad at us when something comes out in marketing or something comes out, some kind of sale or anything, because either chances are we had no input or we had no clue, and it happens.
And they're 6 months in advance.
So
that Plex sale that came out the day after the dev blog or whatever, and again, Reddit went nuts, tinfoil were flying off the shelves. There's two departments that probably don't even know who's in charge of the other one. And that Plex sale was thought of 6 months ago, was already pre-planned, and the dev blog is 2 months behind schedule, and they just collided accidentally.
Yep. So, but speaking of marketing, this is the Macarial Hex skin, Angel's Hex skin, which this was the very first of this kind. It was originally given as a deal. I believe if you bought like a year or 6 months or some amount of game time, they gave you this skin for free. That's how I got it. And then later on, they introduced it to the market. It was one of the very first skins that had any kind of special effects, and everyone, including myself, loved it. And now since then, they expanded it to being on all of the other ships, and those got sold, and that has been very successful. But now they've come out with another two varieties. So now that each pirate faction has one of these hex skins, either vampire, ghost, or the original angel hex. So Serpentis and Angel Cartel is the angel hex. Vampire would be Blood Raiders and Garistus, and then the Saunchus Nation and Mortis Legion get the Phantom Ghost. So the new ones are the Vampire Hex, which this is the red with the green lines, which I think is really, really good on especially the Blood Raider skins. But I personally feel that they don't quite hang nearly as well on the Garista skins, and it may be a combination of the fact that the Garista skins already have plenty of good skins, or it may be just be the big flat panels aren't working for me. But I do like them a lot more on the Blood Raider skins. On the Ghost Hex side, the Ghost Hex is like a green and yellow, which I think looks really good on the Saunchus. But again, the Sancha also doesn't really have that many great skins right now. So even the little effects of the lights and everything go a long way on these ships.
Yeah, we need more skins for the Sanchas.
Oh, absolutely. It does look really good on the Phantasm.
Yeah, I love the Phantasm. It needs more skins.
Can you do the Sencha victory skin from the Alliance tournament?
Sure.
On all the ships, or just I forget, because I know the Garistas one does like all the ships, and that was really cool. I wasn't sure if the Sancha one did the same.
Oh, I think there was only one skin type that came out that like went across the whole line. I don't remember how the tournament skins came out, because I've written those off as things I'm never going to be able to engage with. But the Mortis Legion also big flat panels. Actually, in this case, flat colors just look really good on Mortis ships, and even the Pancake gets some pretty cool lights.
The flying freaking frying pan.
Yeah, the frying pan. That's what I meant. So those are the new skins that came out today. There are bundles on NES to get like an entire races set at one time, but that has been true for the Hex skins, so I doubt that that's going to be like a special deal or something like that. I assume that nobody has anything else to say about that. So I guess the only other news that I have for tonight is that this is going to be my last show as primary host for Talking Stations. Next week, I am going to be starting my own thing. I love my time on Talking Stations. I still plan on being here, especially if there's something important that needs to be talked about. But what I want to do is start taking the same sort of ideas that I've been doing here over to a place where we can explore, what's happening within the universe, how it impacts people without having to focus on the politics or whatever, and merge it into my returning live stream. So I'm really excited about it. I'll have more information about it in the next, over the next few days, and I'll get started next week. But like I said, I will still be here, and not as much, and hopefully when I come, I'll have concise things to talk to you about instead of ramble for a long time.
Well, I for one appreciate all that you've been doing here before I even joined, long before I joined as well, and look forward to your new adventures and much success there as well. I'm sure you'll do fantastic, and of course, like you said, you'll still be bumping around here. So, thank you very much for all of that.
Absolutely, and it is actually somebody did ask how's Matterall doing. I forgot to mention this at the very beginning of the show, but Matterall is still recovering from his COVID shot. But from my understanding, it's going fine. It was just we planned on giving him this time off so that way he would have no compunction, no need to push himself unduly. So I believe he's returning. Finish the sentence, Rundle.
Yeah, he should be. Well, it'll probably be Thursday. He should be back around on Wednesday, but Wednesday we have a special show on Wednesday, as I covered on the Sunday show. Looking forward, there is going to be Carneros and Rich Richmond are going to have a special interview on Wednesday. So the daily news will return on Thursday, and Matterall should be around for that.
Absolutely. So only more and more content being made about EVE Online, and we hope
absolutely
that, you know, part of this is because a lot of you guys have shown how important it is to you guys to cover all this stuff and to talk about these things and to create places to learn, and a newfound interest in the universe itself, divorced from what individual people or groups or whatever are doing within that. So that's what I'm looking to explore more of.
Excellent. And I don't think Matterall had his shots. I think he's going through Terragenesis, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out on Thursday.
Man, and you say that I have tinfoil. Well, I'll leave the last word to my guests after that. Kenneth or Torvald, do you have anything else you want to throw out there? Start with Kenneth.
Yeah, I'll go first. CSM 15 was awesome. I had a fun time. I'm looking forward to CSM 16, hopefully. And I'm glad you were happy, Torvald. You're one and done, and you're out of there. Good luck in the future, and I'm sure I'll see you in game around somewhere.
And before we get to Torvald, Rundle, can you flag down McLeod and let him know that we need to do the raid now? And I can't talk in Discord right now because I'm streaming from it.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so on to Torvald.
Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a year. Crazy year for CSM, very active year, and like I said, one and done, and I'm happy. I feel really good about everything I've accomplished. There's my specialty areas, and there's sometimes where I'm sitting there at a meeting and I don't even know what we're talking about because it's, you know, stuff that I have no clue about. But yeah, it's been a great year. It's been a great experience being on CSM. Had a lot of fun with it, and now I'm ready to just kind of play and chill with Eve. Really looking forward to this next batch of CSM campaigns and the whole voting stuff, especially because I can sit back and just like kind of watch from afar. And the other 9 guys on CSM, freaking, hopefully they all run. And I don't know who I'm not going to endorse anybody or anything because honestly, there's so many people running that I support all of them. But if any of Eve Online's in good hands. If the 9 guys that are on CSM now get reelected or a whole new group comes in, I just know the group that I've worked with. I mean, freaking, yeah, it's been awesome. They're all kick ass and provide great feedback, and they do their job very well. And it's been a damn cool year. And Kenneth, damn good luck to you, man. And that South Carolina meetup, that'll happen someday.
Yeah, for people that don't know, we're only an hour and a half apart from each other in real life. So we our job during the CSM meetings, we live down in South Carolina where it's relatively warm. Our job was to give the weather report to the people in Iceland every week.
It's snowing sideways for them, and meanwhile, Kenneth and I are sitting here in shorts and t-shirts, so they hated us.
Well, it was good talking to you both, and I think that it was very useful to get this kind of perspective, especially as we're getting prepared to process and think about all of these new candidates that are coming up. So, Kenneth, I look forward to seeing your campaign, and best of luck to you. Torvald, take a break. You deserve it. Enjoy basking in Eve and killing some dudes in arena PvP.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you like that 3v3 destroyer last weekend?
Well, see, you did a Freudian slip there and you said 3v feed. So yeah, that's basically how it went. But it was a lot of fun flying with Locaval and CCP Trash Panda. I love that stuff, man. That was a good time. But hey, good slip there, Kenneth. Thanks for letting them know how it went.
And then there's Navy frigates next week, right? Or is it this weekend or next weekend?
Starting this weekend. Navy frigates 2v2. Stock up on frigates, y'all. It's coming.
Blow them all up just in time for us to have to build them all with all that exploration loot that Nth Dimensional's been finding. All right, are we good to go, Rundle?
We are good to go,
right.
Yes.
I'm going to close it over to my closing thing, and then you can do the raid whenever you want. Without further ado, right. I have been Ashtarothi. This has been Rundle, Kenneth, and Torvald, and I appreciate you guys all coming and watching. Hope you had a great time, and we'll see you in space.